The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the last 5 decades, the federal government's role in elementary and secondary education has increased dramatically. The Department of Education currently runs more than 80 K through 12 education programs, many of which are duplicative or ineffective. As a school board member, I saw how the vast reporting requirements for these federal programs tie the hands of state and local school leaders to make the best education available to their students. Since 1965, federal education funding has tripled, yet student achievement remains flat. More money clearly is not going to solve the challenges we face in education. Unfortunately, the Obama administration has refused to work with Congress to address these challenges and has instead taken unprecedented action to further expand its authority over America's schools. Through the President's waiver scheme and PEP programs such as Race to the Top, the Secretary of Education has granted himself complete discretion to use taxpayer dollars to coerce states into enacting the President's preferred education reforms. Adding insult to injury, President Obama continues to push for more federal education spending, requesting a staggering $70.7 billion in discretionary funding alone for the Department of Education in his fiscal year 2016 budget. Our children deserve better. It's time to acknowledge more taxpayer dollars and more federal intrusion cannot address the challenges facing schools. H.R. 5, the Student Success Act, will streamline the nation's education system by eliminating more than 65 duplicative and ineffective federal education programs, cutting through the bureaucratic red tape that's stifling innovation in the classroom, and granting states and school districts the authority to use federal education funds to meet the unique needs of their students. The bill also requires the Secretary of Education to identify the bureaucrats in Washington who run the programs to be consolidated or eliminated in H.R. 5 and eliminate their positions to ensure that the bureaucracy shrinks with the programs. Additionally, this legislation will take definitive steps to limit the Secretary's authority by prohibiting him or her from coercing states into adopting academic standards like the Common Core. It also halts the executive overreach in the waiver process by prohibiting the Secretary from imposing extraneous conditions on states and local districts in exchange for a waiver. The Student Success Act protects state and local autonomy over decisions in the classroom by removing the Secretary's authority to add new requirements to federal programs. H.R. 5 recognizes that local communities know their needs better than any bureaucrat in Washington and empowers states and districts to develop accountability and school improvement systems that align with their local priorities. It also repeats federal funding requirements that arbitrarily restrict state and local policymakers' ability to set their own budget priorities. Mr. Speaker, federal policy should not tie the hands of local educators to make the best decisions for their students and communities. H.R. 5 is a step in that direction, and I urge my colleagues to support the rule and the underlying bill, and I reserve